So hello again, it's MoggyX, Big Chief and Wild, and in this video we'll be discussing the matchmaking in the game World of Tanks. I know I've got quite a few questions myself, and it'll be led by Wild and Big Chief, and I'll generally be asking questions as we go through. So on that note, you should see in front of you a chart which explains where the different tiers, so you've got the tiers down the left hand side, so you've got tier 1 all the way through to tier 10, and then you've got the breakdown between light tanks, medium tanks, which are my favourite, SPGs, which are artillery, tank destroyers, which Chief likes, and of course you've got heavy tanks from tier 5 tier 4 or so and above. Wild, over to you.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that on this, this is made by Overlord, so it's all freely available in the World Tanks forums. If you can't find it on there, we'll have a link where you can download it from anyway afterwards. So you don't have to sit here and stare at the video. If you can't make it out, we'll give you a file to download. But the important thing is that you need to get your head around the battle tier side of it. So if you look at this, for example. You find your tier, you find the tank that appears in that tier. So, for example, give me a tank.
Tier 7 heavy.
Right. So
like IS, for example, tier 7 heavy.
An IS, so tier 7 heavy. If you look into here, then tier 7 heavy is going to have a battle tier of between 8 and 12. That basically means that you'll be fighting other tanks that have the same battle tiers as that you do, or have the option of being in the same battle tiers. They don't obviously have to match them all, they just have to match one of those numbers. So that could mean anything from, if you look up the battle tier 8, you could be seeing anything from tier 3 artilleries all the way to, what's the final one of that one? Tier 12 all the way into tier 10s. So this, you can really follow up the extent of certain tanks, figure out what sort of things you're going to be fighting against, or where maybe there's some clever tanks that you can play that get through some certain battles.
Yeah, just from my point of view, because I tend to try and keep to medium and light tanks, and you'll see that on the row for tier 5, so you'll see the tier 5 light tank in the pale blue, that it's heavily distorted to go into the big tank, into the big games. So that would be the Leopard, was it the Leopard or was it the VK2801? I can't remember now which route is.
The tier 5 is the VK2801.
Yeah, that seems to have that and the T50-2 seem to get put right up there.
There's some very interesting things in it though. If you look from tier 5 light, you've got a battle tier of 8 to 13, but on a tier 6 light, you've only got 8 to 12. So they must not rate the tier 6 lights that highly. Tier 7 lights then go back up to tier 10. Tier 13. So for some reason they've trimmed a bit off in the middle of that. I mean, there's a list of premium tanks and exceptions that we'll go through as well at some point in a minute, but we're just trying to get your head around this first.
Yeah, and obviously battle tiers are not your tank tiers.
Obviously,
obviously, because you didn't go up to like tier 13 in a tank.
I think they were added so that it gave the matchmaking mechanism more leeway, in short, for it. But I think probably one of the biggest things to point out is that pretty much every single class, with the exception of artilleries in red, is that they all span 3, maybe 4 battle tiers. So this is exactly why the matchmaking can appear off to certain players, is because it's according to this mechanism, then there are going to be tanks which maybe shouldn't be in Pacific battles when you look at it as a whole.
But how many times have we been in a battle and said, "Oh, this balance is rubbish," and then you've ended up rolling them, only losing like 4 tanks? To be honest, I think there's far too many tears about it in World of Tanks. There's far too much crying about balance being off. More often than not, the game knows what it's doing. There is bad balances, don't get me wrong. But, for example, you can see an interesting jump here. Tier 8 mediums, so battle tiers 9 to 11. As soon as you jump to tier 9 medium, you're 11 to 13 straight away. So that's why you find you'll get a lot more good games in your tier 8 than you will your tier 9.
Yeah, that's a curious one, because the E50 always goes in massive battles, whereas like the Panther 2 is that quite frequently, and this matchmaking kind of highlights it quite clearly, is that with the Panther 2, then I'll normally get, I find that I'll be right near the top of the tanks list when I go in with that tank more often than what I'll do. Well, it's almost impossible with the E50, to be honest.
Your E50 has exactly the same battle tiers as your E100. Put it that way.
Yeah, so, well, that explains it all, yeah.
So, you know, one may be medium, one may be heavy, and they may be two different tiers, but they've got exactly the same battle tiers. So, let's take a look at the exceptions, which is the lower part of this.
Oh yeah, what's going on with the Bison?
Yeah,
well, for some reason, the game considers the tier 2 German artillery to be far in excess of all of its other competition, because it's given it an extra 2 battle tiers. So I'm not sure if you can revert back to the early one or not, but the rest of the tier 2s have 3, 4 and 5.
That
but
Bison
got 3 to 7.
The same battle tiers as a tier 3 artillery.
Nearly.
Yeah,
nearly.
minus one exception.
Yeah.
And that's on the lower end. The rest of it is ramming it straight up there.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh, and there's the tier 2 light, which was that freebie tank, which I've got, and that tank's absolutely crazy.
They say that's until the French tanks came out. I haven't heard since, but until the French tanks came out, that was the fastest tank in the game, wasn't it? It gets up to 76. Amazing, that tank. I used to love it.
Oh, is it? No, I think it's 72. That one's 72. I think they've capped the tanks out now at 72 because
it's the same as the T50.
It's like a Ferrari.
Yeah, it's really fast. It's like the T50-2 that tops out at 72. The VK2801 that caps out at 72, and there's another one which caps out around that kind of speed level 2. Crazy little tank. By the way, if you've got it, just I didn't know this till until somebody told me, is that if you hold down your finger on the fire button, then it just dumps its entire 15 rounds in front of you. It's hilarious. Sorry, side note there.
If you look at the tier 8 premiums, so down the bottom of that thing you've got the type, you've got the M6A2 E1, which looks like someone's drawn a tank with a crayon. Then you've got the KV5, and then you've got the low. So if you look at the battle tiers of all those, you can see that the low and the... People are always comparing the KV5 and the low. The low is a better tank. I don't think anyone's disputing the low is a better tank. But for value for money, considering how much more expensive that low is, I'd choose a KV5. Because you save the money, as well as that, battle tiers, 33% of the time you're in a better battle than you are with a low. I mean, that's when I take my KV5, more often than not, I'm top tank.
By yourself though. Unless I end up dragging you down to my low.
Yeah, this is true. Depends on where you... That's a very important thing to remember, because the platoons you're in, it'll always take it from your highest tank. So if somebody in your platoon is playing a different tank, then you need to make sure that their battle tiers are not dragging you into something stupid.
Similar to yours as well, yeah.
Yeah, didn't they change the Type 59's tiers as well? Its battle tiers, and moved it up? Because I'd really like to thank whoever made that change. I really do. That Type 59's gone into some amazing battles, and even if I nerfed it, like you saw in the video which we released earlier today about Type 59 getting one-shotted, is that I'm in an amazing battle. I'm right near the bottom. Everything. If I just do a tiny bit of damage to it, then I'm gonna have good times. So thank you whoever made that change.
You make a lot of money from that, don't you? I mean, there's two ways of looking at it. Obviously, when you're top tank, you get more chance of getting a lot of kills and being the big man on campus. But if you're down the bottom, any damage you do is making you a lot more money.
Yeah, the only which I don't like coming across in the Type 59 is something like a T95 and IS7, because I tend to bounce off the front all the time with the Type 59. But every other tank's fair game.
Well, let's have a look at this. What's your percentage chance of running across a T95?
Pretty high.
Pretty high, actually, yeah.
Yeah, there's
tier 9 tank destroyer, yeah. You overlap on 2 out of his 3.
On 2 out of the 3, yeah.
There's 66% chance of finding one if it's going to go into the game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate.
So there you go. That's our rundown on the on this section of the mechanics. Maybe we'll come up with some more and we'll do some other stuff.
So what do you think of the matchmaking system in the game World of Tanks? You can let us know in the comments box below. Cheerio!